Welcome, everybody, to the Genesis Mindset. And in this episode, I'm going to be talking more in depth about Maria, the dev, and why I believe Maria is the best dev on Pulsechain, if not the best dev in all of cryptocurrency at the moment. So I'm going to be going into the revealing of the mystery behind mariarahel, Maria's intentions as a dev and how it translates into being mega bullish for Atropa, and the function of the chat log and auditing the dev and the feedback loop and why he actually is so benevolent. Then at the very end, I'd actually love to get everybody's feedback. I've been working on an Atropa logo. So there is no official Atropa logo. So I have been working on that. I think we do need a cool logo. And Maria was talking about bootleg merchandise. So I'm actually going along those lines, and I have some plans for how I'm actually going to utilize that for the betterment of the ecosystem. So with that, let's actually get into the presentation. So it's going to be a presentation episode today. So the title of today's video is Why mariarahel is the best dev on Pulsechain, and in my opinion, ever. At the minute, could be the best dev ever, and how it actually makes Atropa ecosystem as a function of having the best dev ever, one of the safest plays of all. So first, the mystery of mariarahel. So mariarahel revealed himself within the Atropa chat log. So first there was the 414 dev. So when people were first discovering Atropa, there was this 414 that was actually creating hundreds of tokens, and then created the IRC chat log through advertising it as a token. And within 5 minutes, the chat log filled up with people who were curious to know who the dev was. And basically the dev revealed himself through that process. Previously to actually revealing himself publicly, only Sunny, Freedom77, and Steady Pup had actually had a coffee with Dev. So they caught up with Maria, and a lot of that information was mega bullish. So they didn't want to reveal too much. They didn't want to share too much about that information, but they all walked away feeling extremely hyped and bullish, both on the character and intellect of Maria and on the trajectory that Maria was taking it. And now, obviously, Maria has actually revealed himself completely to a few lucky Europeans. So there was a meetup, and so now Maria is publicly known. Since Maria has been publicly known, the whole market has really hyped up because, of course, there was a fear. There was a fear around whether this dev is going to rug pull. Who are they? They're anonymous. We don't even know. There was no trust system. So people were really afraid about that. So Maria did go into a lot of details about the project, but one thing that he did say about his past was that he worked for Bill Gates to create one of the most cryptographic, well, to create the most cryptographically secure systems on the planet for one of Bill Gates's nuclear programs. So he actually has a very, very high caliber background. So for me personally, just from what I was watching in the blockchain, what I was actually seeing, how I was seeing things unfold and how I felt about it, I trusted Maria from the start. So I never really had that fear from the start. Once I started to understand things, it made sense to me that I didn't need to actually see his face. It made sense to me about what I was seeing and witnessing and how I felt about it. That made more sense to me than whether or not this dev was going to rug pull or steal liquidity away from Pulsechain, which a lot of people actually claimed. Those claims have in fact been 100% false. So the intentions behind Maria. So the intentions really is to create a decentralized financial system with all the instruments of a financial system on the blockchain. So unlike every other form of DeFi that's happening in cryptocurrency, it's not really a system. It's really just a pool of money where people put their money into, and then it gets extracted out by a few small percentage of the people with the most money generally, because they're the ones that can tank the price. So the whales are just extracting liquidity from everybody else. So Maria, having been scammed several times, 5 times, is actually trying to avoid all the scenarios that lead to scams, rug pulls, and a lack of trust in a developer. Because if there's no trust in the developer, then there's going to be no trust in the system that the developer is actually creating. So it needed to actually establish this trust. So obviously, originally he thought by revealing himself in the IRC, that would be enough, but it hasn't been enough, obviously. So I imagine this is perhaps one of the reasons why he's met with people in Europe to really establish himself as a trustworthy figure. And if you've watched any of the videos, I'll link the 3 videos in the description, then you will know for yourself, if you're a good character judgment you're in the Pulsechain ecosystem for a start, not because everybody was saying Richard Hart is a scammer. You're here because you saw beyond that BS. And so it means you have a good judge of character. I feel I have an exceptional judge of character. And as soon as I heard him talk, it's not about the words, man. It's about what his words, the heart behind the words that I can feel. So very humble character, very giving character, very gentle nature, very, very intelligent. So my trust has gone up even more exponentially. One of the things that he said, which really struck out to me, is that the system is set up to where I can't exploit it. And if I pull out everything I have, it's going to be less profitable pulling it out now in the short term as it would be in the long term. And I'm not going to kill the system at this point. So the system has really taken off. It's got a massive community around it and a massively growing community. I'm seeing my YouTube channel really start to accelerate in growth, much more comments, people watching older videos, a lot of people hashtagging me or atting me on Telegram and on Twitter, really spreading the Atropa ecosystem. What I'm actually going to do as well, I'm going to create an Atropa playlist because the majority of my content is Atropa, but it's mixed in with the rest of Pulsechain. So I will make a specific Atropa playlist so people can actually go through it from start to finish to see how I've actually unraveled this process and tried to discover it myself, standing on the shoulders of giants. So there was people before me who were doing all the blockchain analysis, and I came after them when I started to see what was going on. And so in that regard, what does Maria actually mean? So what he means is the starting supply versus the burn supply versus what he actually owned when he launched Atropa. So purchased billions of DAI stable coins. So these numbers are just arbitrary, but it's really just to show the percentages. That's the main point. Then created 1.1 billion Atropa and then burnt half of the Atropa with all of the DAI stablecoin, and that's continuously being burnt over time. Then the Atropa again was burnt with down, and then Atropa again was divided up and burnt with legal. So of the first 3 tokens, in the end, all of this proportion was burnt and all of this proportion was owned. So what does that mean? This means this proportion, to sell that amount into the market is not worth the actual amount in the market. So it's actually in the benefit of the system for him with this small amount of tokens to see this grow. So the small amount of tokens that he has grow as well. So it's really a system that's designed to prevent a rug pull. It's a system that's designed to give trust in the developer. But unfortunately, people probably didn't really understand this in the blockchain, and neither myself. I heard it all, but I never really understood it clearly until I actually heard him talk about it and actually do these diagrams, which I think makes it exceptionally clear about just his type of character. And yes, he has sold coins within the ecosystem, but it's a system. So these are just 3 of the over 150 tokens in the ecosystem. So it's an ecosystem that is constantly pulling levers, fluctuating to support the health of the overall system. So you have to look at it. So I'm going to emphasize this point. There's going to be FUD. There's going to be FUD that you're going to see on Twitter, and I want to address that FUD. There's going to be FUD that you're going to see from other communities saying, he sold on your head, he did this, he did that, he sold teddy bear for Hex. For a start, the teddy bear that he sold for Hex, he declared that in the chat log that that's what he was going to do. So you can actually front run him and exploit him, and you can also get out of teddy bear if you so choose, if you don't want to be sold into. He also did sell some Hex to lower the price to buy more. This was shown on the blockchain as well. I, again, saw absolutely no issue with that because I'm thinking of the bigger picture. I'm not looking at an isolated incident and saying, what has he done? Why did he do this? I'm looking at the bigger picture, and the bigger picture is, obviously, he really wants to see eHex survive. So in order to do that, one of the classic moves is to dump the price down further and buy it at a lower price. And that's exactly what he did so he could accumulate more. I have absolutely zero issues with that, none whatsoever. No moral, no ethical, no issues whatsoever. For the people who aren't Jeets and for the people who believe in eHex, they're going to be holding anyway. And so if he has more of the supply connected to the Atropa ecosystem, it's actually very, very bullish for the ecosystem. And he even mentioned in the video that Lord knows what the price for Hex is going to be exceptional once the stables get to $1 because of the way that everything moves together through liquidity bonding, arbitrage bots, and the way that the levers are pulled within the ecosystem. So if you look at it individually, you will trip up. You have to look at it as a system. This is the thing about this ecosystem, and I think this is one of the reasons why I've been one of the people to really understand it a lot quicker than most because I'm a systems thinker. I understand things from a larger scale. I'm not a detailed thinker as such. I'm actually really bad with details. It's just not how my mind works. So the chat log, the function of the chat log. So if you do want to actually go look at some of the previous videos of the chat log, I will link one of them up here. So the chat log is something that I spent a lot of time analyzing in the early days. It did my head in, but it has a very specific purpose. So obviously it was to reveal Maria to the world so people could actually start to trust the dev. Okay, who is this 414 dev? One of the things that he did say is it's fascistly controlled. So it's all about having the right vibe. So if there's people in there that don't have the right intentions, if they're greedy, if they're just in there to try and figure out, hey, what's the next thing that's going to pump? Out you go, you get kicked. This is not an ecosystem for greedy people who are in it for short-term gains. This is an ecosystem for people with a big mindset and a big mind and a long-term delayed gratification mindset. So really tries to control the vibe, and it's fascistly controlled. There is a lot of swearing in there. There's a lot of swearing. This puts a lot of people off, but you take everything with a grain of salt. I've learned to do that. When I first started reading the chat, I was like, this guy's crazy. What's going on? What have I gotten myself into? But I couldn't deny what I was seeing on the blockchain. So that's why it really threw me off. But the more that I kind of became accustomed to it, I started to realize the majority of it's just mumbo jumbo. And there's some pieces in there which are really golden, and really it's there so you can pay attention and really help the ecosystem. And the whole point of the log, when it was first revealed, is to measure where the development is in accordance with the users. So in this way, it's like a feedback loop. So you can actually also, Maria said in the interviews, make sure that he's doing the right thing and he's not doing anything unfair. So you can actually call him out in the chat log. You can actually ensure that he's doing everything right by calling him out. So there is a feedback loop. It's an open feedback loop. Yes, it's hard to get into the chat log. Yes, you're probably banned. I'm banned. You know, when we're talking about the right vibe, he was talking about a low tempered vibe. My vibe is very high. So that's probably, I imagine now that's probably one of the reasons why I've been kicked out of the chat log. But I feel like I've got enough out of it anyway. So I don't really bother with the chat log too much more now. I just observe what everybody else is doing. There's so much information out there. So Maria encourages you to call him out, just like I said. So he actually encourages you to do this. So the whole point is, it is in a way a mix of centralization and decentralization. And people could consider this as a negative because cryptocurrency is supposed to be trustless. And in a way, we're putting so much trust in the dev. But in reality, the concept of decentralization, in my opinion, it's a pipe dream in the same way that centralization is. The truth exists somewhere in the middle, in a balance between the two. So I have no issues with the way things are operating, and I think it's actually going to be for the betterment of the ecosystem because in some way, just like Pulsechain, just like Hex, has a huge proportion of the tokens controlled by the origin address as a safety measure. It's a safety measure so the ecosystem can't be bought out and destroyed by any particular whale. So it's actually a safety device that's actually created by Richard Hart to protect the ecosystem. So in that same way, I'm totally for some form of centralization as long as it's for the betterment of the ecosystem. Of course, this brings up a whole bunch of ethical and moral issues, I guess you could say, whether or not the dev will do something against the system. But I don't really see that. Looking at the character of Maria, I don't really see this kind of like egomaniac. I don't really see this person who could get taken away by the power trip. And if it was going to happen, you would imagine at this point, something would have already happened. Again, there's over 150 tokens. There's a lot of work that's gone into it. I just don't see somebody destroying their baby like that for no good logical reason. It's not in alignment with the character that I see. So I actually like the idea of a blend of centralization and decentralization, but it is a philosophical question up for debate, given that it's cryptocurrency. But I do think the long-term prosperity of cryptocurrency does rely on something having to be centralized and decentralized. Pure decentralization in and of itself is just a dream, and it doesn't work, in my opinion. And so if you actually pay attention enough, Maria even said this in the interviews, you can actually front run all of his moves. That's pretty damn good. So if, again, hey, I'm going to be selling my teddy bear, he didn't sell his teddy bear and say, oops, I sold teddy bear. There was a warning. hey, I'm going to be selling my teddy bear. So you can actually front run his move. So this is why it pays to pay attention to the chat log. In this way, in my opinion, again, I want to talk about the benevolence of Maria. So Maria actually talks about this a lot from a scientific and mathematical perspective. And he's talking about this as like having full control of a microbe. So he went into a fair bit of detail about the chemical minor microorganism that the Hungarians created. So it's the little microbe in Yakult, and it's the same mathematical structure as dysnomia. This is what dysnomia is based on. Now, people think of bacteria as something good, but actually, it's only really good if you have full control over it and you can send the signals yourself. So any good bacteria in too much doses is actually bad for you. Anything good too much is actually bad for you. Fiber is exceptional for you. I actually, at one point, really not ruined because I've recovered it after about 2 or 3 years, the gut health of my own gut bacteria, because I had way too much fiber after a fast, and it really just like threw my whole gut microbe, my whole gut bacteria completely upside down, and I was farting and shitting. It was terrible. I recovered after like 2 years. I had to really fix it. It was also for other reasons, but even good things are bad when there's too much. So having it controlled in a very controlled manner is very, very important. And I'm very bullish on the fact that there is this genius dev that's the one that's actually devised this system and that's pulling the levers. So when he talks about things being at the right price and things being where they should be and the bar is set here, I love hearing those sorts of things because it goes beyond my field of understanding. So I just trust the dev. I trust his nature. So I'm happy to just go with the flow and try and front run the moves as best I can and follow the movements. So what are we talking about here? As we know, at this point, over 150 tokens. So this is a very small proportion of the interlinked tokens created by SteadyPup. So this is a map created by SteadyPup, the founder of PLS Pup. And so as you can see, Atropa is liquidity bonded with a whole bunch of different tokens. This is part of the magic of the Atropa ecosystem. Because it's liquidity bonded, it all moves things up together. So as soon as you plug in a new token into this system, like Hex, for example, it's going to get pulled up with the entirety of this system. Within this system as well, things get pulled up and down. Levers get pulled when this is overvalued. So Maria talked about teddy bear being at a certain value. And then obviously that was probably the most overvalued. So sold it into Hex. It made the most sense. It's for the betterment of the overall health of the ecosystem. It's about the overall health. It's not about pumping just because there's more teddy bear holders and pumping their bags and enriching them. Yes, it is about people making money. That's the primary function of this, but it's about being fair for everybody and being in benefit for the health of the overall ecosystem. That is the most important point. So if you have a dev that understands the math and the science and can start pulling things and experimenting with things along the way, this is very, very important for the overall health of the ecosystem for the long term. Once it can start to establish these P stables, which is one of the primary objectives of the Atropa ecosystem, then you would imagine once those P stables are stabilized, or once they at least get to $1, it will have reached a major milestone. And then what's actually going to happen after that? We don't know. It's a very, very exciting future for the Atropa ecosystem. Maria spoke about it in the context of a planet and basically continuing to grow out this planet. And so what you can actually do is you can plug into this planet and you can benefit from what's actually happening in this planet. So he actually wants people to participate into this ecosystem, to learn how he did it and do the same, to actually participate through burn liquidities, through the right kinds of liquidity setups and bonding, and actually participate in a benevolent, non-greedy way. And this is a very, very important thing. This is something where it's very unique to this particular ecosystem more than any, in my opinion, is the vibe of Maria and the kind of vibe that it attracts back into the system. Gratitude, humility, not being greedy, having the right kind of mindset, having good intentions, having a positive kind of mind frame, having a working together, creating a system where everybody can win. It's not a linear system. It's not a pump and dump. It's not a PvP. It's a PvE. It's us together against the world, the system, so to speak. We're creating a better system. So from that perspective, I'm very I'm over the moon bullish. Every new episode that I do, every new piece of information that I uncover, my bullishness just continues to grow, and it hasn't stopped. So with that, now I want to just share. I would love your feedback. Please give some feedback. So Atropa logos. So there is no Atropa logo. Everything is really community. There's no websites, no white paper, and Maria's specifically done this for a very particular reason, and I think it's so people can actually take ownership of the system themselves. So I started with Midjourney and coming up with I put in a prompt for the kind of thing that I had in my mind. And then what I did is Midjourney didn't really produce the right kind of thing that I wanted, but I started to blend them all together in Photoshop and create a logo that I was very satisfied with. So I've got a bunch of different logos here. I'm very much leaning on this one. Number 3 doesn't necessarily have to be the colors, but I love it. I love it. And then I'll explain it in a second. And even Atropa with the actual font as well, and how I can actually put this onto merchandise as well. And I'll get into that in just a moment. So I'll be very curious. If we say this is 1, 2, 3, 4, I'd be very, very curious to see what everybody resonates with, because I would love if I came up with the logo for the Atropa logo. I would love it. I would love one of these logos to be used. I would love number 3 to be used. It would really, like, if I see that little logo there on Pulsechain, I'd be beaming. If it was on Dex Screener, I'd be beaming. Again, doesn't have to be that color. I'm happy to hear some feedback. And so obviously, as an architect, as an artist, as a designer, there's always a design intent. So if I use number 3, for example, for me, it's very obvious, but obviously the root system is connected to these liquidity pools. So it's like interconnecting all these liquidity pools. And the 3 leaves, the 3 Atropa leaves, are the P stables. So you've got PDI, PUSDT, and PUSDC. So it's very symbolic for that. I just think it's awesome. When I do design and I walk away from the design, what my process is, I'll just smash it. So I smashed it all day yesterday, like hours and hours. I actually had eye surgery yesterday. I had some surgery on my eye, get a cyst removed. So I'm like with my little pirate eye patch doing this, and I was just grinding away. It was awesome fun. And I go to sleep on it, and if I wake up and I'm totally in love with any of them, the one that sticks out in my mind when I woke up, I had number 3 resonating in my brain. I started putting it on logos, and I was like, putting it on merchandise, and I was like, this is boss. I really like 1, but it's a bit too intricate as a logo. I think 3 is just much more clear, much more simple, and it's really like I designed that one from the ground up. So I'm really attached to that one. I love it. Again, not necessarily the color, but I just love it. So I would love if the community was like, yes, we love that logo. If people, if just say 1, 2, 3, or 4, and maybe we can perhaps pitch it to in the Atropa Telegram and see if people are happy to change the logo there and start doing it on Deck Screener, and then maybe even run it by Maria. I would love that as well. I don't have access to Maria, so if anyone can, maybe if Maria's watching, what's up, babe? So, all right, merchandise. Okay, so the bootleg merch. This is what kind of triggered this when Maria was talking about bootleg merch. So how can some of this be applied to logos? And it just looks boss. It looks so sick. I mean, this is just a jumper. It could be on a t-shirt. It could be on anything. It just looks so gangster. This could use a little bit of work, but you can see the concept more clearly. So the pegging, so a hat, for example, having the Atropa logo on a hat, any kind of thing like this with any kind of range of colors. And what I actually want to do with this merchandise is feed it back into the system. So obviously there's a profit margin for this, and I want all those profits to go back into the Atropa ecosystem in some way or another. So whether that's some sort of automated thing where basically the money comes in and then it goes straight back out into the ecosystem buying any particular token, there is a subset of a system that I'm actually really thinking about putting this into, but it really depends. And in some way, whether that full proportion goes to burn liquidity, or if it goes to the full proportion will go into buying tokens. That much I am 100% certain on. But as to how much of that actually is benevolently donated to the ecosystem as burnt liquidity, and how much of that proportion I can actually have for myself to trade amongst the Atropa ecosystem, but it will always stay within the Atropa ecosystem. It will always stay within the Atropa ecosystem. And I really like this because, again, It gives people something to like talk about and buy, and like really start to spread the word on how fucking amazing this ecosystem is. So with that, thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed that episode. So I'm going to be doing a couple of episodes today. I've got the energy. I've got a lot of topics to keep covering with the 3 videos. So I will leave it with that. In the next one, I'll do a book reading. I'll just try and do maybe 1 a day. So that's all on Maria. So yeah, what do you guys think? Again, Maria, do you fully trust Maria? I fully trust Maria. I fully trust Maria. I hope he comes to Australia. I hope I get the opportunity to meet him. I hope I get the opportunity to shake his hand. He didn't take my hug. But Freedom77 got a hug. So I'm really hoping I can get a hug one day too. So with that, thank you very much, everybody. Take care. And please also, yeah, let me know what you think about the merchandise and the logos. Which logo do you like? Would you buy that merchandise? Would it be something that you'd be interested in buying? Because if you're not, then there's no point. If you are, I will keep putting the time and effort into it. I really enjoy it, but obviously it takes a lot of time. So take care. Thank you very much, everybody.